Hello. Well, yeah, I'm not wearing my typical black shirt today. There's a reason, or is there? Well, actually, there's always a reason why you're wearing something. But I mentioned in the past that I had read a bunch of books by Ruth Montgomery. I have one of her books over there called "The World Before." She used to write a lot of books back in the '70s, and I remember that. Well, it's tied into something else that's going on. The Over this entire lockdown, I'm reading a lot of books, and I signed up for Amazon Unlimited, something like that. So yeah, I get to see as many books as I want for free, and probably the same as having a library that's open. But they have a lot of these books that seem to be very popular in Eastern Asia. Like it started off mostly Japanese, but then I've seen lately, last few months, a lot of Korean and Chinese novels. The Japanese word for it is Akisa. Wait, I don't know how to pronounce it. Isekai or Isekai, probably Isekai. It's Isekai. So it's probably Isekai because it's Isekai. The idea being that people wake up in another world, like either they die in this world, or they walk through a mirror, or they go to sleep and wake up, or they're playing a video game. And it was I saw the first one, first set of stories like that. Oh man, a couple of years ago. It was one called Overlord. It was an anime that was recommended to me over and over by Netflix. And I was like, I don't want to see it. It sounded awful. About a guy playing a video game and he wakes up and he's in the middle of the video game. And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds pretty stupid. So then, but I was like bored one day a couple of years ago and I watched it and I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. The general story is, like I said, is this person who had reached the top level in the game, I think level 100 or something like that. He was there until the midnight hour when they were shutting down the servers, and then the next tick over, suddenly he's actually in the game, but he can't tell if he's in the game or not, which would be kind of weird. Because if I can't tell if I'm in a game or not, then there's something wrong. But because I know if I'm sitting in front of a monitor or not, but uh, so he couldn't tell. But he was a character suddenly in the game, and all the rules were the same as when he was playing the game, except the world was slightly different. And he retained all of his powers and information. And I think everybody in the world eventually figures out it's like level 20, and he's level 100. So even his most basic of spells from the game, it was like a sword and sorcery game, were way overpowered. And since then, I've been on a hunt for those kind of games or those kind of books because I always thought that would be more interesting. I always hated books where the main character kind of struggles to get to the end. It's like I want to see somebody overpowered. I want to see that somebody comes in and just wins. It's like if there's a struggle, then there's a chance that you may lose. It's like, well, that's yeah, I don't like that. I always like to see that somebody crushes their opponent, not just kind of wins. Because yeah, in every competition there's a winner and a loser, but very infrequently does someone crush somebody else. And so I thought that was a fascinating kind of idea, and it's like, and it really took off. Now there's tons of books like that. I mean, there's so many of them, and most of them started off as like lit RPG kind of stuff, and where they have like stats, like oh, here's the person in the new world, and they have these stats. But the like health and strength, and like they're from video game. A lot of times they have a display even that pops up and tells them what they have, or there's a lot of common elements in them. I mean, over the last year, I've read well over 100 different series, books like that. Um, I found a lot of them online and things like that. I could read one a day or two a day, books, and some of the series are pretty short, some are abandoned. But the idea being that people were in a life in this world, and something happened, or they're unhappy or something, and suddenly they're in another world where they're really overpowered. And it's a fascinating idea. And like I said, it's in American culture. It doesn't really play out very well. I guess they're translating them, so it must be becoming more popular. But it's not part of our mythos. They have a lot of backgrounds, a lot of these stories. I don't know enough about the cultures of those countries, but it seems that it's part of it somewhere, or else somehow it just took off as a fad, and now it is. But what it tied me to today, when I was thinking about the Ruth Montgomery books here, was that she had a book about walk-ins. They were called back in the '70s as well. And the idea in that one was that if at some point people wanted to give up on life, that a spirit or an alien, because she liked both of them, would walk in and take over your body, and you would be gone. You would go off to heaven or the great beyond or whatever, and said, "I'm done with this." And then those people who walked in were supposedly powerful beings who would be able to take your life and use it for something positive. So you're not there anymore, but your body's still there, and you would go off and do great things. And these were the great prophets, people who decided, yeah, I'm tired of this world. I'm moving on, and let somebody else take over. And that was a general summary of it. And she also had the book about star children, and including a quiz at the beginning, know if you're a star child or not. uh, yeah, of course everybody takes the quiz, and of course everybody comes out to be a star child, I believe, who buys the book. But the idea being that you were from another realm or universe or something like that, and you were born here, and you have better powers or insight than people around you. And I was like, wow. So her books actually were kind of that kind of stuff. I mean, but in real life. So from her point of view, those were the kind of things that happened, that people would walk away and someone else would take over. And the same thing would happen from, I realized, from the point of view of the characters in these books I'm reading. It's like, from their point of view, in the other world, a lot of times a character in the other world would die as well. Like somebody here dies, gets hit by a bus. Seems like a lot of bus accidents in Japan, but somebody get hit by the bus, saving a kid. It's always the same. And they'd wake up in another world, and in the other world, that person was just backstabbed and was left there for dead or something like that. But then they would wake up and they'd have suddenly more powers than they had before. It's even though they didn't have the power in our universe, and the people in the universe they went to were very underpowered. Somehow they were given a gift for saving a kid, and they were ultra powerful, and they could do all sorts of stuff. And people around them would go, "Hey, you look slightly different now." No one would realize that's an entirely different person, which I find kind of odd. But it's the general premise. You have to let it go. It took me a while to just say, "Okay, well, that's just the way it is." They're trying to tell a story, and here's what they have to do in order to get that story out. But it's a similar kind of thing, though. It's like, maybe I'm wondering if in her books the people who are coming into here, maybe they don't have that much. There's people out there somewhere else, and they decide, I'd give Earth a try. And suddenly they're, oh, okay, well, if you go over there, then we'll give you these benefits, and suddenly you'll have a life that's blessed or charmed in some way, that you can help out the people of the world you're going to. Because in general, most of the books in this Isekai stuff, they try to help out the world. There's a demon overlord who wants to conquer the world, and every so often there's ones from the bad point of view, like the book of Overlord itself, the one that I think kicked it all off. Although there's probably ones before, but for me it kicked it off. He was kind of a bad guy, sort of skeleton and Lich King, but yeah, they kind of all tie together. I realize it's like this story, this whole idea that people in some world, they die or something, and someone takes over, and some people, I guess, actually believe it really happens. I hadn't really considered it until, except today when I was looking at my Ruth Montgomery books here for whatever I was going to talk about originally, and I was like, oh yeah, that ties into all these stories I've been reading. So, but I don't know, it's an interesting genre. There's thousands of books out there and series that have been going on for years with these kind of characters. So if you're interested in that stuff, maybe I'll put some links down below. Whatever about some of my favorites. I don't know if you could say favorites are pretty much all the same story. So I guess Overlord would be the one that I said originally was the one that I was fascinated by, and the Ruth Montgomery books as well. But yeah, who knows? Maybe there are people who walk into people's bodies here or something like that. I mean, almost anything is possible. It's whether it's probable or not. Uh, I think most of the people who read them as escapist fantasies here is thinking, oh well, in this life it'll suck, but maybe I'll wake up in an alternate universe with tons of power, even beyond what the people there have. Because it's like, well, even if they woke up there with a place with just magic, that'd be more than what we have here. So, but for some reason, that's never enough. They always want to be overpowered there. So, but anyway, just my thoughts on those books and reading that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's any other fans out there, but if so, hope to talk to you. Take care.